Hey, good morning, everyone. How are you? My name is Jeffrey Thomas. Today, we're going to be discussing the proper selection of self-retracting lifelines, their different connection points, and a small variety of each. This is for my Workforce Education 106 safety video. Before we start, does anyone have any questions? Kaylee, that's a great question. Thank you. What does SRL mean? That's a great one. It means a self-retracting lifeline or a safety device. So, before we get into the hands-on portion, we're going to discuss the different types. We have a leading edge SRL, which is a steel cable with a plastic coating on it. You would attach that on a ground hook or D-ring. We have a couple of other standard types. We have a 6-foot, which has the dual carabiner or a mountain climber's hook that will go into a aerial lift or into a scissor lift. It only goes out a total of 6 feet. We have other types of devices also. This one is from Guardian. It's known as a Halo. This one reaches as far as 16 feet. So where do we think we might use this? That's good. Well done, Kira. We would use it overhead. So how would I make a connection point on an anchorage overhead? We would use one of these known as a beam clamp. It is for a vertical application. So when we're doing this, there's a device over here that when pushed in, it will allow me to extend or bring in, depending on the different types of beams and the different sizes. It will go in just like this overhead. So if I'm attaching this, a competent person would have to go install this on the beam so that when I go up in my full body harness, I would have to hook this up, give a tug. Now I have a secure anchorage point, and I have an adequate length, which on this one is 16 feet, to do my vertical application. So that was a great question. Thank you. Now, what is this? This is known as a beam wrap. So I would wrap this around a column or a post, something of structural integrity. I would have to wrap around the post, put it in too. But before I do that, what I want to make sure that it's not tied up into like a knot or twisted. Sure, I would. We'd want to make sure that when I do this, that we're nice and taut, depending on the size of the beam. It can slide around to a variety of different sizes. Now, if I had to, do you think if I had to shorten this up that I could put a couple of different wraps in this? Sure I could. That would shorten the distance. So say I don't need a total of 6 feet. I might want, say, 2 feet. So I would wrap around the beam probably 3 or 4 times before I make my connection point. We would use this for a vertical application versus the vertical. Same style. I would have my dual carabiner. We would make our connection point onto our anchorage, and then we would attach the other end to the D-ring on the back of our full body harness. Now, do you think we've forgotten anything prior to making our connecting points?
Yes.
So what do you think we might have forgotten?
To check your equipment?
Oh, so we forgot to inspect our stuff. That's a great question. So So when we're inspecting our SRLs, or self-protracting lifelines, maybe we want to try to pull this out as far as we can. Run our hands along, feeling for any frayed edges, looking for any stitching that might be disrupted. While we're doing that, periodically check to see if the brake system works. Now, OSHA says that with these, that within 18 to 24 inches, it should lock in. Most of our standard ones lock in at 6 to 8 inches. It's a pretty quick device, but we always want to make sure that we check all of our different types. Now, this one is a lanyard. I brought this as more of a show and tell item to show you what something bad could potentially look like. What do we see wrong with this?
It's pulled up.
Yeah, we have some stitching that's blown. So if we have more than 2 to 3 stitches, we have to take it out of service and give it back to our manufacturer and get a replacement one that would withstand. OSHA says that a single attachment point should be able to withstand 5,000 pounds of downward force. That's great. Now this one is known as a 6-foot lanyard, and it has our rip pack built in. So you would hook one end in, your snap hook, to the back of our harness, and we would use our Pelican hook. This is a smaller device that would hook in to your attachment point, and that would withstand your arresting force on your body. So, before we go into the shops and we put on our full body harnesses, we've done our inspections. We've shown you the different connecting points. We have discussed where your different anchors would have to be. Now, we do need to make sure when you, ladies and gentlemen, take the test that you have done the hands-on portion. You showed us prior to doing any of your work. We need to make sure that you do your written test, answering certain questions. We do need to make sure that we have an 85% or better as far as your overall grade. My personal preference, you need to have 100% prior to going into the shop and doing the actual hands-on portion of this on your written test. So, in a little summary today, we have talked about our 6-foot SRL, which you would use in either an aerial or a boom lift. We have talked about our beam clamp, which is our overhead attachment point. We have discussed our leading edge SRL, which would have your steel cable with a plastic coating on it. Our standard 16-foot SRL, which would attach to our beam clamp. We've also discussed our wrap strap, which would go in a vertical application. So if there's no further questions, let's get on to our written test, and then we will hop into the shop, making sure that we have our hard hats, our safety glasses, our safety boots, and our proper high vis to be prepared. Thank you very much. Have a great class.